When did you realize you had to stop being a doormat? Look, I know I'm an idiot, okay? My therapist says I have a savior complex, but honestly, I think I'm just stupid. Growing up, my brother Marcus was the golden child who could literally set me on fire, and my parents would ask why I was so flammable. When I was 15, he locked me outside during a blizzard because I accidentally breathed too loud during his Call of Duty match. I had to sleep in our shed with the lawnmower. My mom found me the next morning and yelled at me for getting the cushions wet with snow. Marcus was creative with his torture, I'll give him that. He once convinced our entire school I was adopted from a family of circus clowns, which explained why I was so weird. His girlfriend Sarah jumped on that bandwagon and started honking at me in the halls. They were perfect for each other like Bonnie and Clyde, but somehow worse because at least those two had the decency to die. The only place I felt human was volunteering at the children's hospital. Turns out sick kids don't care if you're allegedly from clown stock. They just want someone to read them Harry Potter and sneak them extra jello. Marcus called it pathetic, but what did I care what a guy who peaked at beer pong thought? Then karma seemed to strike. Marcus's kidneys failed from years of treating his body like a frat house dumpster. Suddenly Mr. Invincible needed dialysis, and guess who was the only family match? The universe has a sick sense of humor because of course it was me, the family piñata. My parents didn't ask me to get tested, they just scheduled the appointment and told me when to show up. When the doctor confirmed I was a match, my mom actually cried tears of joy. Not for me, obviously, but because her precious boy would live to torment another day. The doctor pulled me aside since I was still a minor and asked if I was being pressured. I wanted to scream yes, but instead I heard myself saying I wanted to help. Here's where I become the world's biggest doormat. I agreed to donate, but made them promise Marcus would never know it was me. My parents agreed, but only if I became his full-time nurse during recovery. Because apparently giving him an organ wasn't enough, I had to wipe his butt too. Those 6 months were hell. He threw bedpans at me, called me worthless while I changed his surgical dressings. Sarah visited daily, and they'd plan their future wedding while I literally cleaned up his pee. He'd say things like, "Thank God my donor wasn't defective like some people," while I injected his anti-rejection meds. I bit my tongue so hard I'm surprised I still have one. Every night I fantasized about telling him the truth, but I never did because I'm apparently allergic to standing up for myself. My breaking point came at my high school graduation. Marcus showed up wasted and announced to everyone that the only reason I graduated was because the school felt bad for the slow kid. My parents laughed, actually laughed. That night I left a note that just said, "I'm done being your punching bag," and disappeared. 7 years of blessed silence later, my parents tracked me down at the pediatric ward where I worked. They claimed grandma was dying and I needed to come immediately. Grandma had been dying for 20 years, so I should have known better, but apparently I'm still that stupid 15-year-old who gives kidneys to bullies. But I actually walked into Marcus's engagement party, and the bride was Sarah. The honking witch from high school was marrying my brother. But wait, it gets better. She was telling everyone she met Marcus when she donated her kidney to save his life. This lying piece of hot garbage had a fake scar and a whole story about how their love grew from her sacrifice. My parents sat there nodding along like they were watching Shakespeare instead of a con artist performance. Sarah spotted me and her face lit up like Christmas. "Look who crawled back," she announced. The family disappointment who abandoned everyone. During dinner, Sarah went on about how she and Marcus were trying for kids, and she hoped they inherited her generous spirit, not the weak genes in his family. She stared directly at me while saying it. I wanted to flip the table, but instead I just smiled. I escaped to the bathroom and overheard Sarah with her bridesmaids. She was bragging about how she found out through hospital connections that Marcus had an anonymous donor. She researched the family and discovered I'd disappeared and created her fake story. Imagine being pathetic enough to donate anonymously. I couldn't believe it. I was going to snap right there and then, but that's when my parents cornered me in the kitchen. They begged me not to ruin Marcus's happiness with the truth. Sarah found me on the porch later smirking like the Grinch. "Must be hard watching him love me for something you could never do," she said. I looked at this woman who stole my sacrifice and turned it into a payday. I looked at my parents who sold my kidney story for their son's happiness. And I looked at my brother toasting his hero fiance. And for the first time in my life, I smiled a real smile. Because I realized something. I had medical records, I had surgical reports, I had proof, and Sarah had a wedding in 3 weeks. It was about to go down. Full story on channel, linked below.